Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and Ranking Member Graves, for holding this hearing on tax-compliant costs and whether it's slowing this country's economic recovery. As I have always stated, as we move forth in the 21st century, small businesses will become more and more an essential element in driving the U.S. economy. About 30 million small businesses operate in the U.S., which employs virtually 80 million workers. When it comes to tax compliance issues, small businesses benefit from greater flexibility and fewer bureaucratic controls. But today, during these tough economic times, small businesses are having difficulty staying open. Now is the time for the IRS to do much more in outreach and education to small businesses to answer the many questions and address their legitimate concerns. For small business, the tax code is simply too complex and burdensome. And I hope that our conversation here today will enable us to come out with recommendations to assist in those outreach efforts. So, Mr. Shulman, a lot of the tax issues are not merely about the money, but about the compliance problems when dealing with the government, especially when it comes to reporting. Most sole proprietorships have to pay federal and state payroll taxes as well as unemployment insurance, and therefore have to meet so many deadlines. Yet when the IRS alleges that a small business tax return is incomplete, they attempt to reprimand the small business without any inquiry to determine what may have happened. If that is the temperament and culture of the IRS, do you think that the burden of proof should then be on your agency to show paperwork was indeed not reported by a small business?
No, thanks for all of your comments, and I couldn't agree with you more that in this tough time, one, everyone's counting on small businesses bouncing back. The President's been very clear that small businesses and entrepreneurs are an essential part of the engine that is important for the country. I talked quite a bit in my oral testimony about the outreach efforts we have, about the things that I asked every person in the agency to do around making sure we're flexible with businesses who are experiencing hard times. I guess I have not experienced the culture that you're talking about. We've got a lot of employees, and there's always going to be exceptions. But in general, our people, I think, are try to work with taxpayers. They have a job to do, obviously, to make sure that they audit businesses and individuals, nonprofits, to make sure they're abiding by the law. When it comes to paperwork, one of the things that I know for sure, I've talked with our Commissioner of Small Business, who's here today. I've actually gone out and done roundtables with our agents. We seldom disallow expenses because records aren't there for small businesses. Our agents usually work with the taxpayer to try to reconstruct those records. So I guess I wouldn't necessarily agree with the characterization, but I very much agree with the sentiment that you put forward, which is that we need to go out, we need to be reasonable, we need to work with taxpayers, we need to assume that the majority of small businesses are wrestling with an incredibly complicated code and just trying to get it right.
Fair enough, Mr. Shulman. The hope is that there can be that level of engagement sustained in terms of quality across the span of the agency. As you said, you send forth a certain culture within the agency, and you hope that is followed through to the end. And certainly there are nuances within each individual business that you may confront. And so we're looking for that consistency and quality, commitment to small business, and I'm glad to hear that is your goal, your aim, your philosophy within the agency. I understand that recently you held a program called Super Saturdays, and this program provided free tax help to communities nationwide. My question is, why has there been no Super Saturday directly focused on small business, especially during these tough economic times?
Yeah, we had last year, actually, was the first year we did Super Saturday, while we were trying to get 120 million stimulus checks out to the American people, and there was a whole category of seniors and veterans who usually wouldn't have to file a tax return but did last year because of the stimulus. It was such a success. And frankly, we had employees from all over the agency work directly with taxpayers. One of the things I talked about before is a key and a focus of mine is to make sure we walk in the shoes and we understand what it's like to be a taxpayer. So having our executives from across the country deal face-to-face with taxpayers was a great experience. So we did it again. We opened up on Saturdays. We had people come in. This was open to individuals. It was open to small businesses, to any taxpayer. Last year, we actually held 2,600 seminars, education events, forums for small businesses. And I'll refer you to my written testimony so I don't go through it again. But I think we have a lot of outreach for small businesses. We could always have more, and one of my jobs is to triage the resources between our phone people, people who make the internet work, people who do service, people who do enforcement, the whole around small businesses, large businesses, individuals, both service and enforcement. And so we're just trying to balance that. But you have my commitment that we're very focused on trying to give support to small businesses.